Right, what have we got today? Well, it's a whopper. It's the BLF Q8. BLF just stands for Budget Light Forum, and it's a really good place to go if you want to learn about flashlights. They know a hell of a lot more than I'll ever know, so it's a great place for information. They know what they're talking about, and it's kind of a collaboration where the manufacturer has worked with people from there to make what the enthusiasts actually want. Same sort of thing came along with the BLF, again, Budget Light Forum A6. Now I think Astrolux are the actual manufacturer of this, and they made a really good, it's one of my favourite 18650 form factor torches. I really like that one. It's pretty, I would say it's probably better than the Convoy S2 Plus, but back onto the torch we're supposed to be talking about. So it's a whopper today. Right, I'll give you the specs whilst I open it, because remember, everybody loves an opening. So let's get this open here, if I can work out how to do it. There you go. So normal box, nothing particularly special. Thorfire are the manufacturer, even though it's called the BLF Q8. There's the Q code if you need it. There's no other markings on it that I can see. This is how it came, so I'll move that out of the way. Let's see what you actually get in the pack here. Okay, this must be the torch, is it? Yeah, there's the, bloody hell, that's heavy. Right, I think it's about 400 grams without the batteries. It's a pretty hefty piece of kit, so we'll put that down. We'll look at the extras first. So what have we got here? Spare O-rings. So an O-ring is just a piece of rubber which sits around a seal where you have two screw parts together. And the point of an O-ring is it allows you to have a virtually waterproof seal anyway. This is an IPX8, which we'll go into in a moment. And there's a spare button there. So that there should be, yeah, so it's a spare button, so you can see there. So I like that. That shows a bit of common sense. So plenty spare O-rings. I like that. They don't feel particularly flimsy. They look pretty good to me. Excellent. Right, what else do you get? Right, I presume this must be some sort of instruction booklet. Yeah, instructions. Almost like a quick start, really. There's your different modes and what have you, but I'm pretty good with things like that. I can just see it once and memorize it, other than the configuration modes, which I probably won't go into on this one because it's a little bit too lengthy. And there, that's like your cheat sheet. Now, as you can see, the reason I'm probably not going to go into all the modes is because look how complicated it gets. Now, this is the Nozzle. See, it says Nozzle there. Nozzle firmware. So there's different firmwares you can get. This is the up-to-date one. But as you can see, it gets a little bit complicated with battery temperatures and blinking out temperatures and all sorts of things like that. But it's worth understanding that the granularity that comes with this torch means that you can alter all these things, which is highly appreciated, especially at this price point. So highly programmable within the Nozzle firmware anyway. So we'll pop them in the box for now. We'll have a look at the torch. Now, it's our absolute whopper. It's a little bit front heavy, but I would expect that because once the batteries are in, it's going to increase the weight at this end. So that should even up nicely. Nice clicky button. Now, I'm a lover of tail clicky buttons, but obviously because of the size of this, that just wouldn't be possible. And I know off the top of my head, this should, yeah, it does. This should come off, which allows you access to the screws on the bottom there. Not bad. The screws aren't stripped or anything. It looks pretty good. And if you can see that glistening on the rim there, they have, yeah, they've put a little bit of lubricant on there. I would put more on there personally. It ensures that water travel doesn't get through, especially if you haven't tightened it properly. And there's the O-ring there, which sits right at the end there to give you a seal, that end. And here's a little trick. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but if you get a cheat sheet like this, if you just double fold them, hang on, and get it the right way, there you go, right, double fold, and double fold again. So if you stop you getting confused, stick your cheat sheet in there. Because there's no heat produced down there, you don't have to worry about that bursting into flames. The heat's all this end. That's why this is out like a big heat sink. So you can keep your cheat sheet in there. That's just a little tip that I generally use when you get them. And there's a little tripod mount here. It's a standard fitting, and I have tried it and it does work, and I like having that option. You can use that for lanyards as well. I prefer them on the tail, but never mind. It's not really a lanyard thing, is it? It's a bit of a big one, this. It's quite a hefty thing, and then you have these cut out sections. Now the whole point of this is so if you drop it, you're not whacking the lens. And as you can see, it's a quad emitter, as in there are 4 LEDs, and it's a smooth reflector. So we'll go over that. So find a pen. Here's one. I'll go over this now so I don't have to do it later on. I like to go over this, and I know if you are a subscriber you'll have heard this before, but according to the statistics, a lot of the people who watch my videos watch it and then go. They're not necessarily a repeat viewer, so it's worth repeating these. So your reflector types, if you imagine, there's your torch there with your batteries in, then you have the emitter, which is your LED, and then you have a smooth reflector, so it bounces around, da 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 da, and you get your spill, your spotlight there, and your spill, and then throws how far it goes. I personally prefer what's called a orange peel reflector. It's bumpy and it evens out the pattern. So let's say you shine this at a wall. If it's a flat reflector, what you tend to get is you get that. Not particularly nice on the eyes. You get all the intensity there, and then the spill isn't quite as intense, whereas this evens it out, so you get, it's more like that. It evens it out into the spill. So I prefer an orange peel reflector. Now that doesn't really matter when it's a multiple emitter. So this one is, and it's what I would call a flower petal configuration. So it's 4 stacked up. What that tends to happen with that is they come together. As long as this is well designed, and now it looks pretty good to me. I'm presuming that's some sort of aluminum alloy rather than just a cheap foil. Looks pretty good, and I'll show you in the beam shots later on when I go out and try it. You'll see instead of getting a round beam pattern, you'll get almost quad emitters. You tend to get this for obvious reasons. You're getting a representation of the reflector, but you're not really going to notice that because it's got because of the size of the reflector, you're going to get quite a lot of spread anyway. So let's get in this and have a look. Now this is an 18650 type battery, which are the big ones, so you can get the nice lithium ion ones, which I like. Now let's have a look at this thread. That's definitely greased, you can see. Good to see, but again I would put more on there. As long as it's not too much and you're getting grit in, you're alright. And then O-ring's fine, doesn't feel particularly cheap. And you can see in the bottom there are your springs. Now I just want to feel these because generally, they're the I would say they're medium to heavyweight. I don't like the ones with the cheap springs. They tend not to last, but they're about average, I would say. They're not the best, but they're not the worst. Now this runs batteries in in one supercell configuration. So instead of like on the through night, you're creating one big cell by using a cradle. What this does is it uses this as the cradle technically, and then these are fresh off the charger this morning. So let's get them in, and you put them in standard configuration, so flattest end to the spring. Okay, and then obviously, this end they're going to make contact with this, and that says Q8, and then behind there will be the driver, but I'm not going to start taking that to bits. Let's get this put together, and I'll tell you about the specifications. That feels, and that's a nice piece of machinery, look. They've done a good job there. Now, I know off the top of my head, once this reaches full lock, it should flash. There you go. 2 flashes, right? Contacts made. So we'll put that down and I'll discuss how this works. There's your running light on the LED. Nice little feature, just so if I will show you how to turn that off, obviously, but temporarily that's not going to use a lot of battery, and if you're busy and you keep picking it back up, that's a good feature. I like that. That's handy. You're not having to rely on some glow-in-the-dark thing. So let's go over the specs. So it's the, move this out the way. It's the BLF Q8, and obviously Thorfire is the manufacturer. The LEDs, there's 4 emitters, the XP-L HD V6s, I think. V6 3Ds off the top of my head. And the tint on these is around 5,000. Now, when I talk about tint, what I'm talking about is the colour profile of the emitter. So, the lower the K value, generally you're going to get more of a neutral colour, and the higher you're going to get a whiter one. Some people prefer a white light. I personally don't. I'd generally go for a neutral one, and this is technically classed as neutral white. It's around the 5,000 K range anyway. It's not up to the 7,000, sorry. So it's pretty good. That's what I would generally go for, but that's just a personal thing. This can go up to 5,000 lumens, which is pretty impressive if you consider that's powerful enough anyway. The BLF A6, that's going to kick out 1,000. Same batteries, but that's a really good output for 4 18650s. It's IPX8. Meaning it's technically waterproof, but it's probably only going to be waterproof to about 2 meters most. So try and keep it out of the water. But obviously rain, you're not going to have a problem. Sticking it in puddles and rivers isn't going to be an issue. Although I wouldn't leave it out too much, because that all relies on whether you've greased this and whether the O-rings are in place properly, and sometimes they're not. That's a hefty torch. It's 400 grams without the batteries, and I'm guessing 550, 600 with them in. It's pretty heavy, and the weight has evened out now that the batteries are in the back there, so it's got a nice feel. One thing I don't like about it is, in order for me to miss out this heat sink and be comfortable, my little finger's coming off the end. So in order to put that on, I'm having to hold it. I find that a bit uncomfortable. Plus, I can imagine that bit gets quite hot. So if there was a way that could put that down, I'd be quite happy, but probably not. Generally with the Thorfires, they do put on a big heat sink, and the whole point of a heat sink is, there's the shell of your torch, and generally your driver's there and your LEDs there, and this is where the heat's all coming from. So in order to radiate that, it's based on the surface. So if you can increase this surface area, you're going to get rid of more heat. Now the only way to do that is, instead of having a flat surface like that, if you make the surface like that, if you imagine pulling that out, you've got double the space double the surface area in the same amount of space. So what you're doing is you're allowing more heat to escape. It works to a point, but unless you have an active fan or you're moving it around, it's not going to have too much of an effect, but it does help, and that's what these fins are for. They're not just aesthetics. So with batteries, you're looking about 550, 600 grams. But let's go through the modes. Like I say, I'm not going to go through all the modes because there's too many and I haven't got time. So there's the truth. So we'll keep it simple. Now this, instead of using a click per mode, so generally you would have, like on the BLF A6, you would have, say, 1 to 6, and then as you click it, it goes up. So let's say you start with like 10 lumens and it goes all the way to 1,000, and you click in intervals. This uses what's called ramping. Now ramping just means you're increasing the voltage. So if we turn this on, there's low. Okay, so turning that straight on, that's the lowest you're going to get is moonlight. Okay, so to ramp up, you literally just hold the button. So if you watch, ramp, there, that's 5,000, and that's too hot to put my hand there now. So you've just got 5,000, then to go back. There you go, straight back to moonlight mode, which that looks about 1 lumen to me. Maybe it's half a lumen, but of course that's times 4, so 2 lumens. But that's, that's the whole point of a moonlight mode, is it allows you to read maps and not ruin your night sight. By night sight, I mean if you shine that in your face or you get too much light in your eyes at night, it ruins your ability to look to see in the night, and it takes about 20 minutes to get your vision back again to see in the dark. So there's your basic modes, on, off and ramping. Okay, then if you want to go straight to turbo, double click takes you straight to turbo. So that's pretty handy. I mean, you can see the temperature of that now. I can feel that's already hot. So even though that's going to output 5,000, there's going to be a step down. Now the whole point of a step down is once a thermal limit is reached through heat and it can't get rid of any more, for the safety of the unit, it's going to step down. So you're going to go from 5,000 to, it's probably going to step down to about 3,000, 3,500, depending on the temperature. So I can't really give you a genuine amount of time that's going to happen, because if you live in Iceland, it's not going to happen very often. If you live in the Death Valley and it's high temperatures, it's going to happen quickly. So we'll turn that back off, and then you've got battery check mode. So 1, 2, 3. So flash, 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 flash. That's giving you a visual representation of the battery level. You can also do in that mode, which I'm not going to go into, you can do a Celsius and a Fahrenheit, where it'll blink out the temperature, which I don't really particularly need to know, and it's not factory calibrated anyway, as far as I'm aware. So turn that off, and then you have 4 clicks. Now I like 4 clicks because 1, 2, 3, 4, and then watch. Flash, flash, flash. That's it. What you've done is you've locked the unit out. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Flash, 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 flash. That's it. So if you knock that, it won't go on. Even if you hold it, it won't go on. I love that feature. I think all torches should come with that feature, even though it annoys people who sometimes get it on that mode from the factory and go, it doesn't work. I'm going to sue, but not necessary. It's a highly valid mode, especially when it's not a tail version. If you have a tail torch like this, even if it's in your pocket, see, it's not possible to turn that on by banging it. Whereas you can do that in your pocket if you want to. See that? Click, click, set of keys or something like that. So I think it's a valuable feature. So turn it off again. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're back in business. It has memory mode, so if you turn this on and you are halfway through in ramping, and then you come away and you come back and you say, right, I'll use the torch again, it's taking you straight back to the mode that you had. The whole point of memory mode is if you have it set how you want, it saves every time you turn it on. Right, we're in moonlight mode, ramp it up, ramp it down. It's going to be set how you wanted it to be set. There's another mode, strobe, which I'll give a shot if I can remember how to do it. I think you go to maximum and then double click. There you go, strobe. You can. I'm going to put that down because it annoys people on YouTube when you use too much strobe. But you can see it running there. You can change those strobe modes so the speed can be altered. Now, it's not something I'm particularly interested in. The whole point of a strobe generally is tactical. That's not necessarily tactical. For me, to be tactical, what should happen is you should be able to instantly get to a mode, bang, and then there's your tactical. So unless your torch can instantly get to it, if you were in a fight or being attacked, how quickly could you get it out and go through all the modes? Hang on a minute, right, 1, 2, 3, don't attack me just yet. 1, 2, 3, right, hold that down, right, now you can attack me, go, and then strobe. Not how it happens in real life, unfortunately. So turn strobe off, bang. The only other feature which I'll go through quickly is if you want to turn this off, so go to full mode, watch for the flash, flash, and then off, bang. That's how I do it anyway, straight off. So very handy feature. Let's give this a mark, because I could go on and on and on to all these different modes, but I think you would get bored of my voice. And this video's already been going on about 20 minutes. So let's talk size. That's a hefty torch. So what is the point of that? When would you need 5,000 lumens when personally that does virtually everything I need? Well, it's kind of like having a hot rod. I mean, it's the cool factor, it's the ability to do that. And don't forget, this has 5 times the amount of battery storage that does. Therefore, if you run that at, let's say, 500 lumens, and you're running that at 500 lumens, that's going to last 4 times longer. So you need to weigh up how much weight are you willing to carry. If I was, put it this way, if I was going camping, I wouldn't take that. For me, I like ultralight. I'm not going to take that. I'm going to take something, at the most, the heaviest I'm going to take would be something like the Through Night. That would last me perfectly long. I could use it for everything I need. It's not going to have the extreme output of the Q8. It's cheaper, but it's personal. So I would personally keep this either in a car or in the house. Even in the car though, you would probably want more of a thrower than a flood like this. Something like the Convoy C8 or something like that. And then what you've got to think for this, for a similar price, you could get something like the MSRD 4, which is going to put out, if you get the right emitters, it's going to put out about 4,000 lumens. The batteries aren't going to last as long, but you can fit it in your pocket. Whereas this, I can fit this in my pocket because I've got big baggy trousers, but most people probably can't. So that's what you've got to consider. If you can get this reduced with tokens and things like that, I would recommend going for it if you really like your torches, your flashlights, but you know, that's a personal thing. I like it. I can see its uses when you need a lot of light quickly or for long periods of time. Out and about, I'll probably take one of these. So let's look at this. Let's look at the size. So there's the huge Q8, and then there's the little Through Night, which I've had no problems with whatsoever. Not as big a reflector overall, obviously. And then there's the BLF A6, and then you move down to something like the Thorfire and the Astrolux A01 and the Astrolux K1. And then just for size, if you don't own any of these, there's a AAA battery, so you can see very large, very heavy, probably prohibitively heavy for some. And there's the Through Night, Night Core tube. So marks out of 10. Okay, let's recap. I appreciate the level of options you have. Beautiful, well done Thorfire. I quite like the design. I just wish they could do something where it would be better for my large hands, because I'm on the uncomfortable heatsink part there, so I wish they could do something about that. I'm not sure how they would achieve that unless you frill this bit or add a bit of copper or something. I don't know how you would do that. That's just 1 point from me. I would give this, for what it is and the fact that for the price it's damn good, especially if you get it on knockdown, I would give it let's say 7.5. 7.5 out of 10. I wish they could change the design slightly so it's more comfortable. I wish they could reduce the weight, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon unless they change some of the materials and the thermal design. Maybe if they could bring out a V2, I don't know. So 7.5. It's worth the money if you don't care about weight and you really like flashlights. That would be my proviso. But I manage with these. I've been down tunnels and caves and all sorts of these. But let's get that rubbish out of the way. We've done the good stuff, so let's head outside and I'll give it a shot. And also what I'll do is, when I'm shanning it about just to see what it's like, I'll also take a comparison torch. I'll take something similar to this, which is 1,000 lumens. So I'll probably take I think in my backpack I have a Convoy S2 Plus. So we'll do a little bit of a comparison as well, just so you can see. We'll do one in an enclosed area and in an open area, and I'll walk about as well. So enough mucking about, let's get on with it.